Hi, this is Yvon Prehn, and I would like to talk to you about how to create websites and blogs. This is a foundational presentation before you begin or revise your website or blog, and it's part of the series. I won't be able to answer all of your questions in this one, but hopefully I'll be able to give you a good foundation for your work. Why we do websites and blogs in our churches. They're an expected part today of any church communication package for basic information that is current and correct. We must keep it up to date if we want people to take us seriously. People don't look up stuff in yellow pages anymore. They go to the website. Also, you want to give people in-depth information about your church, events, and for learning things in, some of the topics that you cover and that sort of thing. This in-depth area is something that is very important and that few churches really do. You are really unlimited in the amount of information that you can put on your website. And oftentimes churches just have a few little phrases and things like that. I'll be talking about this more, but you can really give people in-depth information on the website. People today, when they want to find out more, say about purchasing a car or a washing machine or whatever, they will go to the web, they will research it, they will read a lot of material. When people are looking for spiritual answers, if you have in-depth information on your website, they will read it. They will look there. So this can be a very valuable area. Most important now, we do our websites and blogs to fully fulfill the Great Commission, to go into all the world and preach the gospel. Jesus said we would be his witnesses to the ends of the earth. And think about it. Let this really grip you, that with your church's website and blogs, you can do that. You can literally be Jesus' witness to the ends of the earth. Now, how to do that? How to be a witness? Today, one of the primary ways that people find you, that you end up witnessing to them, is through search engines. Think about it. If you're looking up anything today, you go to the search engine, and that is true spiritually also. Now, if people go to a search engine and just type in say something like First Baptist Church, Ventura, California, looking for your address, of course they're going to find that. That's pretty easy. But will people find you if they look up topics such as faith, salvation, Jesus, the meaning of life, and community? These are all very important things that the church is about. I actually did a study on that last year, and there's a little booklet on that on the website that talks about my study of it under the webinar, under the, the website creation section of the website. But in this little study, I looked up all of these words because I thought this is what the church is about. So let's see how churches are talking about these things. I was shocked at the results because for the first 3 to 5 and sometimes even more pages, I did not find one single church listed. I found a lot of definitions and sometimes sort of goofy articles such as Faith the Biped Dog and a thing on what kind of car would Jesus drive, and I mean just really goofy stuff. But I did not find churches that talked about these things. And why is that? I realized after quite a bit of additional thought and study that church sites don't come up because, sadly, few churches have content about these meaningful spiritual topics on their website. What's really sad is that that content is in the church office. There are sermons, devotions, articles. There's just usually a ton of content that's sitting around, and it could be put on the website and formulated in such a way that people could find it. So you want to get that information on your site, and to do that, you need a system that makes it easy to get content on your site. Now, this whole idea of getting content on your site, having a really content-centric site, that is the theme of this presentation and my whole approach to doing websites. Now, before we get into a few more of the specifics, while we're just talking about the foundations and backgrounds, you may be thinking, well, Do I need a website, or do I need a blog, or do I need both? Let me give you a brief description of the different what they are and how they're different. A website is usually more complex. It's more of an overview. Here's my website on effective church communications. I have literally hundreds of articles, videos, podcasts, I mean, all sorts of things on here for you for information on church communications. Now, then, I've just started a church communications blog that is simply opinion. This is oftentimes blogs are just one column or columnist, one viewpoint. These blogs started out as a web log. In other words, putting one's thoughts, ideas, whatever, in running commentary on the website. It became shortened to blog, and now it's sort of journalism of all sorts. So we have our websites that are usually one overall theme or topic and lots of material there. And then we have blogs that are oftentimes more of an opinion of one person. What makes it sort of confusing, though, is on the web there is a blogging software. That's what it is by definition. WordPress is one of those software programs that can actually be used to create a website. In fact, WordPress, which started out as blogging software, is what I used to create all three sites. So it can be a little bit confusing, but hang in there and I will continue to explain the differences to you. Now, the reason that you might want both a website and perhaps some additional websites or blogs in your church, why you might want more than one, is you might want to expand a current website. Now, many churches have an overall website that perhaps has a very structured setup that is difficult to add additional information to. For situations such as that, and that's what happened to be at our church, the overall website is very structured, and not terribly flexible. The pastor wanted me, though, to do an additional section on the website or blog or whatever, talking about our small group ministry. And so I did up a website entitled Small Group Links. I used the WordPress blogging software to do it, and I'll be showing you in the next few presentations how to actually create ones like this. But this way I was able to create a very extensive website and just link it to the main one, and that worked out really well. This that works great for ministries within the church, for different age groups. The youth group often wants a very different look with their site, missions perhaps. What I've seen a lot of churches do, and I think this is just a great idea, where their pastors or various staff members have their own blogs or websites where they do their own commentary, comments, that kind of thing. That can work out really well. Also, for seasonal content, I strongly recommend that churches, for example, on my, you can go back and look on the webinar on connection cards, where, for example, you do one up for any holiday, and then you have your website. For example, this one for Easter, you could then go to the website where Jesus is the reason for the Easter season. And here you set up a website or blog where you just give people all sorts of things, all sorts of information about Easter. Did Jesus really rise from the dead? How can I know that the Christian faith is correct in what it teaches? All that kind of stuff you could put on a blog or website. Now, let me just say that both of the headers of these websites were extremely easy to create and were created in about 5 minutes using Microsoft Publisher. On the Effective Church Communications website, there's a little training video on how to do that. But when I talk about websites, don't get scared and think we're talking lots of money and difficult things. Not at all. We'll get into more of that later, but you can do them very easily. Now, before we do a little bit more, let's talk about some of the misconceptions people have about websites and blogs for churches and ministries. One of the biggest ones is that how it looks is the most important thing, especially how the homepage looks. Wrong. Wrong. First of all, if you have really meaningful content on all sorts of spiritual topics, the websites will link to you. People will search, for example, on meaning of life, small groups, faith, whatever. They'll find your church's website, but they will not go to your homepage first. They'll go directly to where that article or that content is. They really don't care when they're looking for answers what your homepage looks like. I know some of you are thinking, oh, and we spent all that money. Yep. Big mistake. Don't do it again. But seriously, how it looks is not the most important. Now, I'm not saying you should make stuff ugly or, whatever, but images don't mean the same things to everyone, too. That's one of the real problems with websites that are just all images or primarily images with very little content. I just looked at a church website that was nothing but images on the front page, and I thought, what a mess. This is like kind of a Chinese puzzle, what goes to where and, whatever. Also, too, church websites do not have to be cool. Again, if people are looking for answers, they don't care how cool your website is. They care about the truth of your words. Do you meet their needs? Do you answer the questions they're asking? That's what's important. And also, too, obviously, not only young geeks can create great websites. Some people think that's true. That is simply not true. Because the primary value is in our content. We want it to be easy to access. It needs to be current. It needs to be relevant. It needs to answer questions, and it needs to meet needs. And in all honesty, sometimes creativity and looks can distract from the actual value of content if that's what you're so focused on. Also, too, the reality in answer to some of these previous misconceptions is that absolutely anyone, I don't care how young you are, I don't care if you're older, I don't care if you're in the office, if you're in the park, if you're at home, you can create an excellent content-centric website or blog if, number one, you do need to know how to use a computer. If you know how to do basic word processing, and if you have something to share. Really, those are the only requirements. You don't need one single penny to do it. This is the content adding screen for all of my websites. All of the websites that I do, it's very, very similar. This obviously is just from one of them. But you see the little box here. This is where you put your information in there, and I will be doing another entire presentation on exactly how to do this, but I just want to jump ahead so you realize that I'm not saying things that aren't really true. You just have your content in here, you have your title here, you can check these little boxes, whatever category you want it in, you hit publish, and it turns it in to a web page. You don't have to do any coding. You don't have to do anything. Just content, click, you've got it. There are a few other steps you need to do, obviously, but really that's pretty much all there is to it. I'm going to be doing a whole webinar called Blogging for Boomers, because and I'm specifically targeting that particular one for people of quite honestly my generation. There are many, many, many of you, even listening to this webinar, who you've got a lot of fire still burning in your soul. You've got messages, and maybe you're not a boomer, maybe you're a young person too. You've got this information. You don't need any money at all. If you got a computer and access to the internet, you can get that out there. So that's really all you need. Out of that one basic entry box, that is the core on how I create the communication for all these different websites. These are 3 that I'm currently doing. I've done lots more, but that's really all there is to it. The basic format is with WordPress. A lot of that's done for you. And I will, like I say, I'll be showing you how to do that more. Now, let's actually get to the whole website creation thing, because I know some of you are thinking, well, what are you talking about now? This work and all that. You need to understand that there are 2 primary ways to create websites. The first one, and this is how all websites were created originally, And this is what a lot of you might still think you have to do, but you don't. I'll get to the second way in just a minute. But the first way is where you actually purchase some software, just like any other software, Publisher, Word, whatever. You put it in your computer, you created your website, you loaded it up to the web. This is your one little computer and front page, Dreamweaver, or you could just do an HTML build where you just coded it and programmed it. Initially, that's how all websites were created, on a computer, and then you took all of that information and you loaded it up to the internet. This is still, sadly, how a lot of church websites are created. And this is very, very difficult because everything has to go through the one computer, and that can be really hard. The other way, I just jumped ahead here. Let me just go back for a second, is through a content management system. Now, these are a lot of times just called CMS, and this is really confusing for those of us in the church because that can also mean church management system. It's not the same thing. This isn't membership and all that. This is a content management system. And this is what a lot of companies will try and sell it to you, that you should use their service because it's a content management system. And the reason that they try to sell it to you, and it's really true, is you have this previous little old system that you had just one person creating it, put it on the website. You could have a whole lot of bottlenecks and stuff was never up to date and all kinds of problems with that. Whereas with a content management system, your website is actually hosted by a company on the internet. Sometimes it's called in the cloud, whatever. But people from different computers can all have access to it, and they can contribute, they can comment. Ideally, it can always be up to date. There's one person that can have control over all of the different basic things, but you don't have to build the structure, you don't have to maintain the structure. That's all up on the web, and you just add your material to it. All of that's true. The thing is, many companies try to sell you their system of doing it, whereas you can get the three. Here are three of the main ones that work like this: WordPress, Joomla, and Drupal. Now, I have not used Joomla nor Drupal, but I know a lot of people who do, and they like them. WordPress, though, is by far my very, very favorite, and that's the one that I'm going to teach you. Ezekiel and all of the for sale services, Faith Highway and church websites, and I mean all of them, they are all built around content management systems. Some of them are proprietary, some of them, many of them, in fact, today actually use WordPress. But this is the way you want to go with creating your website. Now, the question then becomes, do you hire a company to do it, or do you do it? Pros and cons. If you pay a company to do it, the one pro on it is you don't have to do it. You don't have to learn it. You don't have to do anything like this. But that's about the only positive. There are a lot of negatives, and I think they far outweigh them. For example, you have to pay for it. And some don't charge a whole lot, but if you are looking for a unique design, $3,000 will get you a very basic one, up to over $10,000. I was shocked. I just went online recently and double checked some prices at how much companies were charging for this. In addition to that, you have to pay hosting services from around $19 a month to $199 and up for using some of these different paid services. What's worse, though, is you're always dependent upon these companies. You usually don't know how to change your design. They all have a very cookie cutter look. And the thing, too, people are very... I know the companies don't intend it to be this way, but I've looked at many, many sites that are done by different companies. A lot of them have a beautiful homepage, but the content is so limited. And I think that's because people are kind of afraid to do anything with it. Let me show you just a really typical one. This is off a company that advertises a lot on their web creation stuff. This particular website, and it's on their site. I I didn't make any of this up. This is one of their examples to show people, so I figured it was fair game. This site cost over $10,000 to create. Now, I'm not that impressed with it, but I think the reason is everything on the site moves. I mean, all this, you click on this and this changes, and you click on this and that changes. And, there's all kinds of moving parts that were probably just a giant pain in the neck to program. But when you, for example, I clicked on events because that's something that people go to a lot. And then I clicked on calendar, and here's what comes up. Now, from a very fancy homepage to a very plain, boring thing. Then I clicked on an event, and here, this is what came up. This is it. Event detail. Obviously, this little fill-in form. Prayer meeting, all welcome. A prayer group that prays for church, our city, our families, needs, the sick, many concerns in people's lives, and for all to have a closer walk with Jesus. Now, I don't want to be cynical, but that really doesn't say anything. Doesn't tell you what to think about prayer. There aren't any links to anything about prayer. Doesn't tell you about answered prayer. Doesn't tell you what the Bible says about prayer. I mean, it doesn't say anything. And I could show you website after website after website. Some of you are probably cringing because I could show people yours and it would be just like this, where you have this really fancy home page, but then all of your other stuff is just these little fill-in forms. And there's no content, there's no anything. And this is what happens if you rely on a website company to create your stuff. People are scared to put anything up on it. They don't know really how to add content. But if you do it yourself, here are the great things about it. And again, I have the pictures of both ladies because anybody can do this. Any age, you can do it. First of all, the pros on it is you'll spend far less, and you can have very powerful websites of hundreds of pages, and with streaming video and podcasts and everything you can imagine, totally 100% for free. You really can do that. You can. Won't cost you a penny. Even more important, though, is you will learn how websites work. And again, you can do this. It isn't scary. I'm not telling you how to program. I'm just telling you, you'll learn how they work. It's just kind of like if you know a little bit about how a car works or, anything, when you take it to the repair shop, you can ask the right questions. Even if you don't do your entire site yourself, if you've at least done your own blog or website or whatever, you understand how it works. And this is very, very important because the communication language of today is digital. That's what it is, and you need to learn to speak that language, and doing your own website will teach it to you. Also, too, if you do your own, you won't be afraid to add additional material. You do a little video, you add a sermon, you add some notes, you find some stuff you like, you want to put it on your site, you'll know that you can do that. You will have a personalized site, no cookie cutter feel to it. Again, I can't tell you, and you can do this on the web. You'll go to site after site after site created by a lot of these different companies. And once you get past the home page, everything's the same. Everything's the same. You don't want that. And let me tell you, when you do this, you will feel so empowered. I feel so strongly about this personally because for years I was just crippled in that I knew how to do publications on paper, but I didn't know how to do them on the web. And I relied on other people to do things for me. And, because I couldn't pay them anything, they would start out really excited and then they would drop me in the middle of it. And then, just years of just frustration because I didn't think I could learn it. And then finally, I just thought, I'm going to learn this. I can do this. I have no money. I have a passion for ministry. I can learn how to do it. And so I did. And the feeling is just fantastic. Now, it does take time. It does take commitment, but it is so worth it. Now, a few little pros and cons on doing it yourself or with a team. If it's just you, I don't recommend that because you don't have any backup, especially in the church where lots of people are relying on you. You want to train people. You do need somebody in charge. You do need an administrator. I prefer calling them a web servant instead of the webmaster. But if you have a team that can update it, keep it current, and add content where the changes are made by those that are responsible, that's really the best way to go. Now, what you need to have in place before you begin or revise your website or blog. Now, I'm going to be, as I said, doing a whole series of additional things on this, but this is what you need to be working on as you wait for some of this additional material. First of all, the content. What do you want to do with your site? You really have virtually unlimited depth available for you. For articles, content, sermons, devotions, all sorts of things that can literally change people's eternity. You can load up hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of them, and it doesn't take up hardly any space on the internet at all. So really think about, what is the message is burning in my heart to share with people. Get that together. You want your website to be more than just a yellow page ad with pictures. Who is your church? We have older churches and contemporary churches and hundreds-year-old traditional churches. Who are you? Be unique. What are the ministries that you do? What is your message? What is your passion? What is the personality of your church? You want to think through all those things. You need to say it in words, say it in pictures. You can really load up as many as you want on the website, but gather that information to give people a very complete and detailed picture of all these things and of the Christian faith as you view it in your church, your denomination. And then you want to look at different systems, because all of them handle content in different ways. This is one of the most important things you need to think about, because you figure out what content you have. Now, if you take your content and you fit it into a system where you don't modify the system or the structure very much, it will save you a huge amount of time and money. Tens of thousands of dollars, literally, it can save you. You may not get everything that you want, but you can create and maintain it. If, however, you are stubborn, or you have some stubborn people in your church office, and I would say just really, really be praying for them, you can end up spending thousands and thousands of dollars just because you think you want this on the homepage, you want this exact little thing or whatever, where chances are nobody but you will notice the difference, but you'll have paid a whole lot more money that could have gone to poor, hungry children. And there's just a whole lot of them today in our world. So weigh your options very carefully, because you'll live for a long time with what you can maintain. Now, it's your choice. Here are some examples. They give them to us right on their website, so I think it's perfectly okay to show them to you. As I said earlier, this particular website that had lots and lots of customized stuff on it, the church paid $10,818 to create it, plus all their hosting costs. Another one by the same company. Notice the very similar happy, cheery people. That's another one of the things that just bugs me about these sites. You know, all of their people look the same, but that's a whole other issue. But anyway, this particular site cost $8,800 plus hosting and services. So you can do that if you want to, or you can go to WordPress. Now, here are just some of the 94 templates that WordPress has available. And every single one of these designs is absolutely, totally, 100% free. And the hosting is free. And you have almost unlimited ways that you can modify these templates. And then there are other things that you can do with WordPress that has a little bit of cost. But the point, once again, that I want to emphasize once more is that to get great content up on the web, to do a really good looking website or blog where people can find what you have to say, does not need to cost one single penny. Now, you can do all kinds of changes and options. This is just one of them that I'll be showing you in more of the how-tos, but I wanted to just illustrate how quick and easy it is. This is one of the basic blogs in WordPress. If you want to do a custom header, all you have to do is go to the little section that says custom header. You upload a picture. It's got this little slider thing part where you select the part that you want, click on it, and there it is. I dummied up two websites. You can go to both of these, http samplechurchventura.wordpress.com or sample not church as usual.wordpress.com, and here are two websites I dummied up for churches. Again, completely free. It didn't cost 1 penny to do them, and they're just mocked up sites. But if you want to have a good web presence for your church, if you're starting out, you're a church plant, you don't have a whole lot of money, you decide that you're going to spend your money on the poor and the hungry and that kind of thing, you can create a great website. Again, these did not cost 1 single penny. Of course, my favorite, my strongest recommendation for building websites, and this is just me personally, you can go to lots of other things that'll probably do different things, but is WordPress. I love this company. I love this company. Now there are 2 different versions of WordPress, and this is tricky because it's different than we usually think of it. The WordPress.com is the completely free part of it. The templates are free. It's hosted for free. There are additional things that you can get, extra storage space and different things that I'll explain to you later that have some cost, but this is completely free. Then there's WordPress.org. This is what I now use for the Effective Church Communication site. The software, basic software, was free, but I have to pay for the hosting. But the basic engine is free. Now, just a few other real benefits from WordPress. The really big people use this. People Magazine, Yahoo, these are just, some of the different companies that use the WordPress.org software system. Also, too, WordPress in both versions has a lot of templates that allow you to create websites that work beautifully on cell phones. So it's very cutting edge and yet at the same time very simple to use. In my next webinar, I will be doing an in-depth overview of the 2 versions and which one you might want to look at. And then in further webinars, I will be showing you step by step how to create a website with them. Now, just as a final review, though, this was just a foundational webinar. I probably brought up more questions that I answered, and I do apologize for that. But this is a huge topic, and I know some of you have been creating websites, and maybe you just want to expand what you're doing a little bit. Some of you, you're brand new to this, and it's scary and it's frustrating. But please don't let it be that way, because this is a tool that you can learn to use. We have the words. We have the content of eternal life. And we must focus on sharing that content. Also, I think we need to be really good stewards of our resources and money and people. As I'm creating this presentation, many of us are still really struggling with the recession, and there's lots of people that have a lot of really deep needs, and I would encourage you to meet the needs of people rather than spending money that you really don't need to spend on your website. There are very cost-effective ways to create effective websites that meet people's needs and answer their questions and that are search engine friendly. So focus on content and development, and pray for wisdom and peace as you implement your website ministry. There's lots more resources on this on my website, and I do encourage you to become a member to benefit from everything that's there. May the Lord greatly bless you as you work on your website creation and share the words of eternal life.